The commodity function of art disappears only to be wholly realized when art becomes a species of commodity instead, marketable and interchangeable like an industrial product. But art, as a type of product, which existed to be sold and yet to be unsaleable, is wholly and hypocritically converted into an unsalability as soon as a transaction ceases to be the mere intention and becomes its sole principle. No tickets could be bought when Toscanini conducted over the radio. He was heard without charge, and every sound of the symphony was accompanied, as it were, by the sublime puff that the symphony was not interrupted by any advertising. This concert is brought to you as a public service. The illusion was made possible by the profits of the United Automobile and Soap Manufacturers, whose payments keep the radio stations going, and of course by the increased sales of the electrical industry, which manufactures the radio sets. Radio, the progressive latecomer of mass culture, draws all the consequences at present denied the film by its pseudo-market. The technical structure of the commercial radio system makes it immune from liberal deviation, such as those the movie industrialists can still permit themselves in their own sphere. It is a private enterprise which really does represent the sovereign whole, and it therefore is some distance ahead of the other individual combines. Chesterfield is merely the nation's cigarette, but the radio is the voice of the nation. In bringing cultural products wholly into the sphere of commodities, radio does not try to dispose of its culture goods themselves as commodities straight to the consumer. In America, it collects no fees from the public, and so has acquired the illusory form of disinterested, unbiased authority which suits fascism admirably. The radio becomes the universal mouthpiece of the Führer. His voice rises from the street loudspeakers to resemble the howling of sirens announcing panic, from which modern propaganda can scarcely be distinguished anyway. The National Socialists knew that the wireless gave shape to their cause, just as the printing press did to the Reformation. The metaphysical charisma of the Führer, invented by the sociology of religion, has finally turned out to be no more than the omnipresence of his speeches on the radio, which are a demoniacal parody of the omnipresence of the divine spirit. The gigantic fact that the speech penetrates everywhere replaces its content, just as the benefaction of the Toscanini broadcast takes the place of the symphony. No listener can grasp its true meaning any longer, while the Führer's speech is lies anyway. The inherent tendency of radio is to make the speaker's word, the false commandment, absolute. A recommendation becomes an order, the recommendation of the same commodities under different proprietary names, the scientifically based praise of the laxative in the announcer's smooth voice between the overture of La Traviata and that from Rienzi is the only thing that no longer works because of its silliness. One day, the edict of production, the actual advertisement, whose actuality is at present concealed by the pretense of a choice, can turn into an open command of the Führer. In a society of huge fascist rackets which agree among themselves what part of the social product should be allotted to the nation's needs, it would eventually seem anachronistic to recommend the use of a particular soap powder. The Führer is more up-to-date in unceremoniously giving direct orders for both the Holocaust and the supply of rubbish.